Hi, everybody. I'm Dave Schade. I'm the Director of your Alaska Division of Agriculture. And today we're going to talk a little bit about our micro grants and our grants programs. So I have with me today Cheadle. Catherine is our grants administrator. And so between the two of us, we're going to just give you guys a little update. And so I think by now people know that we actually did get round one of our micro grants published and out to folks. So of the 2,500 plus pre-applications, that was brought down to a little over 1,000 final applications. And it looks like working with USDA, we have been able to grant and fund approximately 235 of those. So today we're going to talk a little bit, we've been having some questions about the criteria, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to have some time at the end for question and answers. So John's going to run the Zoom for us. And so if you've got questions, use that chat feature because we're going to amalgamate and try to answer those questions. And so with that, I think, Catherine, why don't you let people know about how we worked with USDA a little bit on getting this final approval. So, and then we'll talk about where we're going after that.
Well, every single time we can honestly say it's been an adventure. But again, we are just absolutely thrilled right now that we're at this final phase of being able to announce this first year's awards. The USDA is the federal funder of this program. And we had over 1,000 applications, 1,026 of them actually came in online on the Smart Simple software platform. Our review committee went through those using some different criteria for food security, like how far away from food sources people were and some other things, and recommended 235 programs to be funded. The USDA had to look at those. They came back with some questions. Most of it was really little kind of detailed stuff, but just to make sure that they understood how our process was working and what was being funded and how we were going to track it and report. And they've approved now 235 projects. Tuesday night, we were able to send out an email. My colleague Sarah Spearden, who runs the Smart Simple platform, was able to send out the acceptance emails and the rejection emails. So all 1,026 people have received an email if you have applied last June. And if you haven't seen an email yet, check your spam folder. It's from no reply at Smart Simple, blah, blah, blah. Those who were accepted are going to get another email from dnr.ag.grants@alaska.gov. That's our normal grants email. And that's the way to communicate with me and with our whole grants team about grants questions and microgrants. That email will generate a contract and further instructions for how to get your project started if you were among those who were accepted. The ones that were not accepted got a simple "sorry, better luck next time" from a Smart Simple looking email address tag. So check your boxes for that.
So one of the things I want to really make sure people understand is, look, we have a volunteer team. We've spent almost a year, it feels like, going through scoring that. We had a lot of really good projects that didn't get funded because we ran out of money. And so that was our first 1.6 million that we had available for the funding. We've got another 2 million that we will be coming for the next year's. And so as part of our priorities, if you don't get funded one year, then your score is going to be better than if somebody got funded. So we don't want people to think that, well, I didn't get my project funded, and so I'm out and I'm not going to try again. So one of the things that we've found is that it's really difficult for people to come in and put a whole grant package together for especially small projects. And we're finding that it's really difficult to review these complicated projects. So while we were doing this, we worked with USDA and we're going to change up a little bit in this coming year. We're going to have what we call fixed awards. And so we will come and do some Facebooks before we get that started. We're looking in the February timeframe for putting this next round out. But what it'll be is, we will have a set amount of categories, whether it be a garden, a fence, or just, there will be a number of things that you can apply. And it's going to basically say, here's what you can do, here's the money, where are you, what are your beneficiaries going to be, and put it in. And it's going to simplify those applications, I think, for the people trying to get them in. And it sure is going to simplify and speed up the process we have on our end. That took us 6 months to get USDA to approve a simplified program. So, we have not been wasting our time. The team has been multitasking in a lot of different areas, trying to get it to where we can continue to do that. The congressional delegation, so everybody knows, has continued to push money forward. And I can't remember, I believe the Senate version of the current upcoming budget is around 4 million for Alaska, and the House is at 3. So between 3 and 4 million for the next year. So we have permission from the USDA to go a little faster and a little more succinct. And I think that's really going to help our people in our different areas, and it's going to help staff process this, because it's been just a little bit of a nightmare trying to keep it all coordinated and organized. I mean, we literally went and built a computer program for this process because it was that complicated. So what did I miss there, Catherine?
I just like to brag this, I sound a little corny, but we've been tasked with doing the impossible. Federal grant through state to different kinds of organizations and individuals, just the whole trail of how to put this thing together, since it really hasn't been done, this kind of program for food security in exactly this way. We've created an entirely new program, as Dave said. We've also been running 2 programs at once. One is this year's round of applications that those of you are familiar with. And at the same time, working very hard behind the scenes with an immense amount of communications with our counterparts at the USDA to see how we can make next year's round with these fixed award amounts approvable by them. So they're counting on Alaskans that have been awarded to do a great job with the projects, the reporting, supporting us and the things that we need to track. And just counting on getting the same quality of applications. Our reviewers had a really hard job. We had some excellent applications, and even at $1.6 million, we flat ran out of money. We've been saying since the beginning, didn't we get something like 25 times the amount of money requested in the first pre-application round than what we had approved?
Right.
So when we're talking millions, it sounds like a lot of money to me, but when we have so many great projects, it just shows that the need, the interest, and the capability, the innovation of Alaskans is really out there. So we're really doing the best that we can, not just to implement this year's program and figure out all of our logistics, but looking ahead into future years, how to keep this program workable, learn the lessons from some of the things that were a little bit frustrating this time, and keep it smoother and more practical for food security in the future. So it's exciting. It'll never be quite as difficult, or perhaps quite the numbers that we've seen this year happening again. It's going to get smoother.
So the other thing that I guess I'd like to note, and we put out a press release, and I was really pleased that all parts of the state had projects. So we had Southeast, we had up north, we had out west, and in the Matsu. So it was spread around, and I think we had a decent spread from gardens to fencing projects to storage facilities. Pretty broad range of really good projects, and a lot went to individuals, a lot went to group of individuals, and some organizations had some excellent projects. So as we move forward and contract season's done, more details will come out. Right now, we're just trying to take our time to focus on getting all the contracting out. The goal is to try to get this out as soon as possible, so people can get things on shipping and get it moving. And then next year we're going to try to do a fairly fast process so that people can bring in and work next summer on those projects as well. So I know that it feels real slow, and it even felt really slow for us. We're the bureaucracy. But I think we have been able to design some changes into the system, automate the system. The goal has always been to be fair and equitable, to go to the most needy parts of the state and work there and work our way back. So that's going to continue to be the criteria. Is, we're looking at the highest levels of food insecurity, which usually means at the end of the food, the farthest end of the food chain, we're looking at how many beneficiaries are going to be in this project, whether it be your family, your neighbors, your community. We're looking at those numbers. And so, we will post a little cheat sheet or criteria sheet that staff used. We'll go ahead and post that. I thought it had been, and maybe not, but we want people to know that literally, as I said, when we started this, we're going to look and focus on the need. And we're going to start outside in the most needy areas, and we're going to look at things. And I said, and I've been pretty clear. We're going to look at number one, increasing production. I said, number two, we're going to look at increasing the ability to store that food. And number three is helping people learn how to do that, an educational component. And I was very pleased when I had the final review, because that's my responsibility, to see that those goals were met. And so, Catherine, anything else? And then maybe we'll see if we got some questions and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Well, I guess to those of you that were rejected this round, again, that was just a painful cut. There weren't enough funds to go around. There will be a round coming up early in the next year, so look for that. Our grants webpage is going to be updated. We're working on the final details and editing to get that up to date. And we will have a link to criteria or a couple other interesting links. So the webpage is still being updated. Again, Tuesday, late afternoon was when these emails went out. So we're not even at 48 hours from making our announcement yet. So we'll have more information on the web. If you were accepted for the grant, you will be getting an email from me, and it'll have a packet with a contract to sign that you understand how things are going to work. You can't spend money until you have a fully signed contract. That should be a pretty quick turnaround. And it'll have what the reporting format will look like at the end of your one-year project, a copy of the reimbursement form. We're going to give you all of the materials that you need for a successful one-year project. So look for that if you were accepted. We'll be in communication.
Right. And so one of the things, and I know I sound like the bad cop because maybe some days that's what the director's job is. We're going to give folks 30 days. You're basically going to have a month to get this turned around. So please
sign your contract,
do the paperwork and get it in, because on day 31, it is not going to help you to call the director to get an exemption to the rule. The rule is the rule. It's something we've set up to be fair and equitable to everyone. And so no excuses. If you've got questions, we've got the website, we've got that. We prefer the emails because folks got work to get done, and then we batch up answers and we work things and I'm trying to be efficient. We've got 3 staff that are going to be working to get this done in a month. So it's not just one person. We've actually pulled people off other projects that we've been working on to make sure we can get this turned around. And so unfortunately, groups, each one individual has to have a contract. There are some technicalities that we are living with USDA rules. And so if you have those kind of questions as you're looking at it, who's got what where, that's something that it'll come into the email, and if one of the 3 staff will answer you, and if Catherine can't, she's final, she can't answer it, then it comes to Glenda and myself, and we'll figure out the answer to that. But I think 98% of the stuff will be something that staff have. We've already figured out the answers to a lot of questions ourselves. So, John, what do we have here? Anything?
Yeah, we've got a few questions here, and also several thank yous, which is very kind. So the first question is from Michael. Michael asks, or first he says, thank you for all your hard work. And then he asks, is there any way to get feedback or notes on our application from this year so as to improve our application for next time? And then a couple other people seconded that motion.
With 1,026 of them, not soon. I don't really see how individual feedback is going to be possible whatsoever. But what we will do is look for patterns. If there's some areas of criteria or just some patterns that we notice, we might be able to post on the website, hey, here are some helpful hints, tips and tricks. And we are, something I did forget is we're going to be able to put out some materials. Like for the contracting, Sarah and I are going to make just a little walkthrough video of here's what this means, here's how to do that. We will also be putting out another helpful video series, maybe next February or so when this next round comes out, of how to apply and things to be sure to do. And, again, tips and tricks on how to have a successful application. So to answer you, we cannot individually, given that it's over 1,000 applications that we got, I can't promise that we're gonna individually be able to look into your project and spend staff time on giving you specific individual feedback. But what we can and will do is look for patterns and be able to put up, say, frequently asked questions. John's been excellent at working with that. So maybe we could have frequently seen patterns or hints for having a more successful application next time.
And frankly, I think it came down, because I've
Right.
read all 1,000 of them.
Yep.
The number of beneficiaries and where you are. And sometimes if you're in downtown Anchorage, your criteria is not going to show the same as some Portal Village, Dutch Harbor, and trying to, that's at the end of the food chain. I mean, and the good news is as we go year after year and those needs are met, then things will come in. So this is a long-term program. This is a long-term process. So it's one of those things, as you know, we're going to tell people, keep applying, look at it. We will, you know, like we just discussing before the live, is we're going to put up that criteria. We will again talk about the criteria before we do our fixed award amounts and what we're looking for and why. And so I think with that, people will have a pretty good understanding of how to tweak it. And I mean, it's definitely one of those things to where you want to be honest and you want to show where, you know, I've got this many members in my household, this many members in the neighborhood, and this many people in the community that we're going to be able to help. And so while, you know, I know every individual in the state is qualified, by priority, it's going to take us a while to get down to some of those small individual projects. It's just, that is a criteria issue, and we've been pretty upfront. You know, Catherine alluded to it. I think I estimated $45 million in requests in our pre-app as we were trying to figure out what the needs were. You know, people are like, well, why didn't you go with that? Well, the reason is we were trying to figure out how to develop a program and what the needs are. It's going to take us a lot of years at 2 million a year to get to 45 million. That's just plain math. And so we're trying to be smart about it. If the congressional delegation bumps that to 4 million a year, it'll be a little faster, but still a pretty long time. But I think we'll all learn and we'll figure out how to innovate. And, you know, hopefully with some of the fixed awards, we can make sure that packages, the commercial folks will realize that, hey, this is the money in a package, and maybe they can do a good deal that people can leverage the supply chain a little bit. So those are things we've seen, and we're hoping in the future that, you know, we can maximize, again, the resource, get it out to the areas with the most need for food. Because Alaska's at the end of the lower 48 or the US food chain, and far-flung parts of Alaska, you know, it's a multiplier effect. And so we're very well aware of the needs being way more significant and way bigger than the small amount of funds we have for this program. But Catherine was pretty spot on when it's like $1 million sounds like a lot until you start dividing it among 1,000 people, and then it's not going that far. So
we're good at doing a lot with a little. But again, next year is going to look a little bit different because we have been able to put a lot of hard effort into working with USDA. And it might not be that a particular application was bad or had areas that were missing. It might simply be that you are living on the road system and you got weighted far less points than someone who has no access to a road system, a rail belt, far away from a good working port. So there are just some simple logistics that are very much based on food security needs that may have ranked applications differently as well. Again, this is a food security grant. So
sorry for the long bureaucratic answer, but
Yeah.
the bottom line is we'll try to globally answer these questions and go from there. So next question, John.
Kind of in the same vein, Sharon asks, if our application was rejected in this round, should we assume that our application didn't meet the program criteria and we should submit a different idea in the next round?
Not at all.
Nope.
It just means that according to the criteria, there were projects that I was looking in the ranking, we did 200 and some. The next 100 projects I really liked, we just literally, and Catherine's right, our ranking is based on, and that's based on the federal statute, the priorities of food security. And of course, if you're in downtown Anchorage, you're in a totally different boat than you are in Ikviavik or Bethel, or even, some smaller village further out. So that is where we really will encourage people to do that. That being said, with fixed awards, we're going to already have identified the projects and the levels. So it will be different anyway. It won't be these broad spectrum proposals. We're going to find a way to focus and go faster at that. So, we'll say it's going to be fencing, it's going to be gardens, it's going to be storage. And so those packages, I guess you would end up changing a bit, but because we're going to tighten up the timeline, we're going to tighten up what we give out. That's where, yes, it'll probably change, but not because of you have a good or bad project or the way you wrote it. So I guess as I thought about it, as I talked, it kind of changed what I said. But the thing is we think fixed awards will focus us and you on the specific needs. So the one thing we'll do is be taking feedback for things that should be dropped into the fixed award system, whether it be this year or the following year when that money comes available. So hopefully that answers the question.
I don't think anything really changed. We did the best we could with what we had in front of us this whole past year to create this new program from the ground up. And fortunately, our funders have been receptive at USDA working with us to fine tune a little bit more and have it look a little bit different in the next year. So we'll be giving those instructions in a couple of months. But for now, I just want to thank everybody for honestly excellent applications. It was so exciting, not just to me, but for all of our staff and our microgrants team here, to see the variety of ideas and just the really cool innovations that Alaskans are coming up with. I don't think we had any bad projects. We just had to make a clear line and be fair and equitable. So stick with it and absolutely please give an application next round if you didn't get in on this round, and look to hear from us by the end of next week if you did.
So one of the things that I really have to commend the staff for, and that is the fact that we have negotiated with USDA and simplified the program and the reporting significantly. What they were asking for in the beginning was just insane. And I'm being polite. So now we have some pretty reasonable reporting requirements. We worked with their senior management over there at USDA and got this program simplified to the point it's workable for our folks. And so the team did a great job. We just kept going back and saying, that's not going to work for us. That's not going to work for us. This is too much for the amount of money we have. It's a simple program. They don't need that level of detail. And so I think we've got a fair balance in our reporting into it. It's a one-year project. So you should be able to do it, take a picture, do your little thumbnail sketch report, which, believe it or not, we have to amalgamate and send to the USDA. So we still have steps we have to do at the end of this as well. Next question, John.
Lisa comes in with our last question, and you already touched on it a little bit. When do you think open applications for 2022 will begin?
The crystal ball.
So what I said in the press release, anticipated in February. And when I say anticipated in February, that means that's our goal. That's what we're trying to do. So step one is to finish out the contracts. And so folks, that we need to get those contracts done. And if that gets delayed to the end of the 30 days and we get a big, half of the contracts due the last week, that might slow down the next month. And so, this is incumbent on people to do their work and their side on our part so we can get our job done. I really, really, really want to have this out and moving significantly by the first quarter, which means by the end of March. The good news is the way we've redesigned the system and with it being computerized, the review process will take us significantly shorter time. We can do that pretty fast. We've made it into more of a math project than a project of looking at everyone and then scoring it based on the subjective scores. So while there's still always subjectivity this should speed up our turnaround because we really, by May, and this is just me as the director, it's not staff's, by May, I would like to see them in contracting. So this is going to put staff behind the eight ball. And, so we're doing it as fast as we can. I think February out with all of this is a reasonable expectation. But it really is incumbent on the people that have the 230 subcontracts to get signed, actually a few more than that, to get the job done. So we're really asking people to get in. If you got an award, get your stuff together, get on it, let's get it done, and so we can go on to the next batch. So that's what's going to slow us up. We can only do one project at a time, only one task at a time. And so I think by putting 2 extra people on this to help Catherine, we're doing our part to get it done in a timely manner. And so that's going to be the goal, and we'll do our best to get there. Anything to add?
Yeah, one parting thought from the grants world here. I've been getting a couple questions about the specialty crop plot grants. A different separate program, a little bit larger grant, kind of research and what works best in Alaska. How do we promote the agricultural industry here? That kind of a grant. Last year, the announcement came out in mid-February, letters of intent, which is sort of your snapshot of what you would wish to do, kind of a pre-application. I believe we're due in late March. And the application in full for those selected from the letters of intent was due in late May. That timeline seems to make sense to me, but again, let's see what happens with the micro grants. I'm managing both programs at once with help from the team. So we will be coming out in the next month or so with a new timeline for the 2022 solicitation cycle for the specialty crop block grants. So if you're interested in that particular one, feel free to contact me. We'll have the contact email for that program up on our page when we get that updated in the next couple of days. So it is coming. I'm thinking it should look similar to last year's timeline cycle for the specialty crop grants. That hasn't been announced yet. So here's my update on that. First things first.
Well, John, do we have any final question?
There's one last one.
Okay.
Michael's wondering, is there any info on funding for the grant beyond 2022?
So, as I said earlier, the fiscal year 23 federal grant cycle, we do have funding in that between $3 and $4 million, depending on whether it's the House or Senate version. This is a 2018 Farm Bill program. So it's a 5-year program, but each year Congress has to allocate the funds for it. So it's approved and authorized, and we keep moving forward. But it's got to be funded, and the delegation has done a great job getting it funded. There's actually increased funding in the budget this current fiscal year. We'll see how that pans out. Of course, they just voted, Congress put a continuing resolution in place, which means things stay as they were, but no new funding for the new project. So that we expect Congress to deal with early next year, the calendar year. Because we're already, October was the last year. So, they're already behind the power curve on that. So the federal government's operating under continuing resolutions, which makes all our life a little more difficult because we don't have the final answers to any of these numbers. And our poor federal agencies are in the same boat. They are sitting there just treading water, trying to keep things moving, knowing that once the final budget comes out, then they have to do all this catch-up work. So it's just part of the process that we deal with. I was teaching a new staff member that we got calendar years, state fiscal years, federal fiscal years, and then grant years that can change. And she just couldn't understand how it was like, okay, it's not all stable, it's not all the same time. And I said, there's advantages to that at times, and there's disadvantages. It's kind of hard to keep it all tracked and straight when they keep changing it on just with continuing resolutions. So it's kind of an interesting thing. It's something that we as in the bureaucracy have figured out how to work with, and it's frustrating for the private sector. Spent a lot of my career in the private sector, and I know how frustrating it can be. But I can guarantee you the staff, Glenda and her staff, have done a fantastic job. Catherine and her Amy and Sarah have done a fantastic job, and I like to publicly tell you, thank you for all the extra efforts and the hard work, because they have gone above and beyond the call of duty to get this done. Standing up new programs is in a bureaucracy that we don't control, that being USDA, is always a challenge, and the team has really done a fantastic job. And I have to thank USDA. They have, John and his team over at AMS have really stepped up and helped us get this done. So again, a shout out to the USDA AMS folks that have got this done. They have done a great job working with us. So with that, I think we'll be back. Let's see, John, when are we gonna be back next?
Next week?
Next week. Do we know what we're gonna do yet?
Yeah, 12 days of Christmas.
All right. So if you haven't, that was a little hint that watch your Alaska Grown page, because the team did this really neat poster, and every day a little piece of that poster gets put out is on the 12 days of Christmas, Alaska Grown style. Really fantastic. Amy and Amanda did a fantastic job along with other folks to get that done. And so we're doing that. I personally grab them every day and share them on my link, because I just think they did a fantastic job. So we'll talk about that. And I hope everybody's having a great holidays, and be safe, and in some places be as warm as you can, because we're having a cold winter. Thanks, guys. Till next week.
Bye-bye.